and welcome to Show Up, Stand Out Online Visibility for Entrepreneurs. I am Juliette Stapleton. I'm the queen of visibility, as they say, and who am I to argue? And I always bring you amazing experts. One of them today is Manny Wolfe here. And Manny is a master storyteller and public speaking coach. What I love about Manny is that the content he produces is pure gold. I swear to God, I spent one day, 2 hours binge watching the videos purely on his personal profile. That's without even going into anywhere deeper. And the concepts that I loved and the whole thing, not only they were great strategies for creating stories and, so many tips and real great ways of looking at what you were actually telling people, right? But it was the whole concept of, if you tell your story right, you'll get clients without selling. And that's a big thing, because a lot of people feel they're great helping, they're great sharing. The moment it comes that you have to just discuss, sell something, that's where you feel like you're using them now or something, these blocks. And I think that this is I know firsthand that stories sell, and it's an amazing feeling. So let's talk about this, Manny. Yeah, maybe just in very short to introduce you to the audience with your background, and just we have to.
Okay, I really struggle with doing that short because my background is my origin story, and my origin story is the core of what I do. So I will say this: you talked about how telling your story the right way really, really, really does take away the need to feel salesy and icky. The reason I was not able to make this call was because somebody was enrolling with me that I didn't have to pitch.
That's right.
Somebody was enrolling with me just now, and the payment came through as we were talking. So the reason that you don't have to sell if you tell your story the right way is think of it this way, and it really does relate. Pepsi doesn't sell. Coke doesn't sell. Any major brand like that doesn't sell. All they do is remind you how great they are, right? And interesting about Coke, every 10 years they rebrand. And they rebrand based on the biggest issue of the day. That's why Coke currently has the polar bears in the Arctic as their whole sort of look, because they know that their target market is super focused on the environment, right? That's genius.
Yes, it is.
I mean, that's bloody fucking genius. Now, I don't like Coke.
No, I don't drink Coke. No, not I drink Pepsi. I don't do any.
Right. But the point is, they have created such a complete and thorough open, just reminding you who they are and reinforcing what they allegedly stand for, that it's automatic. You never in your life seen somebody at the grocery store making a deal and closing you on Coke.
No, of course not.
And now, a lot of times people will say, yeah, but that's a big multi-billion-dollar brand. The fundamentals are the fundamentals. The fundamentals do not change. Tell your story the right way. And Juliette, I asked you when we were messaging if I could start referring to it as an origin story too, because that is, I love that.
I love the word origin. It lights me up because that's exactly what it is.
So that's interesting too. She just said it lights her up. When we're telling our story, one of the ways that we make it a powerful opening is we have to choose words that light people up. Not words that land here and we analyze and think and our executive functions sort of pull them apart. We want words that land here.
That's right.
And then down below in the gut. So who I am, let's see if I can do this really quick. I am a little boy who was born perfect and innocent and beautiful like all of us are, but happened to be born in a cult. And just got an insane manifesto downloaded into my brain from birth. So that's who I am fundamentally. In this cult, there were all kinds of manipulation devices at play. The one that I keyed in on the most was subversion of language. So if you're if you happen to be a fan of George Orwell and 1984, the seminal book on the importance of language, you'll know that language is how we connect, right? And so if you take someone, and this is what I use when I'm doing a presentation, I'll say, if I was taught all my life that this is a puppy dog, right? Then when I come to your house and I say, I could really use a puppy dog, things are going to crumble down. It's going to disintegrate. So that's what they did in the cult environment I grew up in. There was taking things that in the world outside of our doors meant one thing and making them mean the opposite. There was all kinds of what's called in-group buzzwords, right? So nobody else knew what we were talking about. If we said, in our group, we would, instead of saying thank you, we would say LSD, which is funny on one level because there were a lot of drugs in that cult. And on another level, it stood for love is service done within the group, which is a beautiful notion. Yeah. But it's meaningless if you don't know what it means.
Exactly.
Right? And so from birth, I was raised to understand that thank you was expressed as LSD. So I go outside the doors of this group, and to say thank you, I say LSD, and I'm a little hippie kid talking about drugs.
Yep.
So I really keyed in on the subversion of language. I didn't always know I was a storyteller, although I always told stories. I always knew that I wanted to bring people together and I wanted to help them learn something. It's pretty vague. It's pretty abstract. And it took me decades to figure out how to turn that into a life's work, an income, a purpose, a mission. But the early experiences and influences led me to a life of crime, a life of drugs, a life of destitution, a life of not being able to hold down a job, a life of not understanding things like you don't sleep with your best friend's girlfriend. Because again, in the group, I saw everybody sleeping with everybody all the time. And it's so silly now to say, but I didn't have any frame of reference that told me, dude, you don't seduce all of your best friend's girlfriends because it causes irreparable harm to your friendships. See, so in all these ways, I was taught massively self-destructive behavior. Now, here's where it gets really cool. Those self-destructive behaviors, they mostly firm up and become a worldview by the time you're about 8 or 9, right? And so in a very real sense, we're all adults walking around operating as the kid we were up till about 8 or 9. True. And here's the thing. Here's where it gets really like spot on the nose. The way that works, the way that controls you is through, drum roll please,
words.
The stories.
Yes, the story.
Yeah, that's right. The stories you tell yourself that you're not even aware you're telling yourself, that we now call your imposter syndrome, your inner dialogue, the critical inner voice. And so that's the power of stories right there. Stories literally, not in some pie in the sky way, not in some esoteric hippie woo-woo way. Can I cuss to your audience?
Oh yeah, I curse to my audience all the time.
Somehow I
don't like it, they come to me.
Okay.
That's how it is. It's as real as it gets.
Stories literally define the boundaries of your fucking reality. Literally. So just want you to understand that. And so one of the main things I teach is to write what you call your origin story, and what I'm now calling your origin story because it's so good. Something incredibly alchemical happens. There's an alchemy. There's a metamorphosis that happens when you get it out of you and either into your computer or onto paper with ink. And there's no way to talk with enough gravity about the power of this particular exercise. You know, if you've ever thought, I have a story inside of me, I have a book inside of me, and then you've sat down to try and your mind just goes into distraction mode and fuzzy brain, and you get tired. Maybe you get like, you start thinking about telling the truth about certain things and your body spikes with adrenaline. Those are examples of how much there's a part of you that doesn't want that story told.
Yes, it's true.
Right? So that's the part of you that would rather stay in the dysfunctional comfort zone. That's the part of you that says the devil I know is better than going into the unknown. And as entrepreneurs, that's the part of us you sign on. When you decide to be an entrepreneur, you may not know this, but you are signing an agreement with yourself to find the boundaries of your comfort zone and figure out how to get through it. Everything else is secondary. The only difference between an entrepreneur and, let's say, like a spiritualist, they do the same work. One produces a concrete, tangible result at the end. The other doesn't. It's the only difference, right? One produces service, dollars, impact. The other stays in the mental realm. So, whew.
But it's true. It's a lot of it. It's true. So my question listening to this is, how does one start or approach, if we go a little bit maybe just strategic and technical, and how do we approach this? So
the starting of your origin story, first of all, do away with your current understanding of the hero's journey. That's the first thing I want to tell you, because the hero's journey is so prevalent in our dialogue as entrepreneurs, right? And it's misunderstood, it's misused, and it's incomplete. So for now, put it off to the side and we'll get to it. The way you start is with what I call your pinnacle story. Do you know what the pinnacle story is? I feel like you do.
Well, yes, it's a turning point in your life. Of course, yes, I have a couple of them.
Well, so it's interesting you say that, because you do have a couple of them, but you really only have one. There's there's only one that came first that absolutely changed the terrain for you. Right? There are big stories that is like you're on a trajectory like this moment happens and you go like this, but the first one is the one we're interested in when we talk about the pinnacle story. So for me, 28 years old, strung out on drugs, just released from jail, homeless, get out of jail to find that all of my belongings that I had hidden at my friends' houses are gone. I find out who did it, and I realize that the guy it's going to be an issue. You know, not just some regular run-of-the-mill punk. This guy is a true dyed-in-the-wool, genuine badass. And so now I've got a big beef on my hands. And I find myself, through the way things happen in that world, holding a gun in my hand, making plans with someone to hunt this guy down and kill him. That's my pinnacle story. That's the story where on the outside, I'm totally a stone mask, and on the inside, I'm just disintegrating. I'm just like looking at the gun, feeling the weight of it, smelling the oil on the rag, and just knowing. I didn't know at 8:51. I knew at 8:52. At 8:52, I knew I'm out of here. I don't care what happens. I'm not hunting someone down and shooting them. Right? That's the pinnacle story. It's the moment where something jars loose for the first time, and you either get thrust onto a new path, or you say there's got to be a new path, or something. A lot of times it happens, people will have a child, and that'll be such a profound revelation that they change their, misdemeanor in ways or whatever it is for you. Right?
My face just went blank, and a lot of people have very unpopular parenting opinions. That did not happen to me, guys. It's just true.
But the point is, it's the first time that something was so big and profound and forced you to see things differently. So that's your pinnacle story.
I would struggle with that, to be honest with you, because when I look at there is hundreds of those moments, and the life is just like this, and I'm glad I love that kind of life.
Yeah. But the thing is the first one is the one that's important, right? anyway, so that's, and by the way, everyone struggles with the pinnacle story. Everyone says to me, oh, I've got a bunch to choose from. And then when we go deeper and we go deeper and we go deeper, they realize, oh no, there was that one where it was like changing the slide in the viewfinder, the Viewmaster. Remember Viewmasters?
Yes. Yeah. Are we that old?
click, click, different reality, right? So then from there, what we need to know is something about your backstory, something about your childhood, something that tells us why it's a big deal that that pinnacle story happened. Because the example I like to use is, if I came from a family, 5 generations deep of gunfighters and killers, it would not be that big a deal that I found myself in that situation, right? So what you need to know to give that situation its gravity is that I was raised a hippie kid, a peace-loving hippie kid who, if anything, like I said, I was taught how to, sleep with everybody. that was my one marketable skill.
Well, and then you play the bass. That just happens.
Yeah. That didn't even happen until I was 30. I didn't even start playing the bass till I was 30. I always wanted to be a musician, but I was too strung out, So anyway, then you give us back history. And in my back history, I give some examples of starting out innocent, like we all do. And by the way, everyone can do that because we do all start innocent.
Of course, yeah.
And then in the back history, you talk about the key moments that really illustrate the influences that you were under before you were old enough to make your own decisions and have autonomy. Because those influences, like I said, that life you lead up till 8 that shapes your worldview is what informs the pinnacle story. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. I'm probably getting quiet because I'm starting to realize some pinnacle stories at 3 years old that were happening to me.
Okay, cool. So here's maybe I would argue the most powerful piece. And here, I'm going to move this so you guys can see that diagram back there. That's my question mark story model. And I realize you can't see the writing from that distance, but the start right there, that's the pinnacle story. And then these are all back history. And right here at the top, we revisit the pinnacle story. So there's some really cool things that happen here. And I'm moving very, very quickly because I know that this is a somewhat people can always go and follow you to find out more, and you have so much that you're giving. So it's good to have this overview now. So when you first talk about the pinnacle story, it's very important strategically to not let any sunlight into that story, because that story is always an intense story, right? And you need to grab us with the gravity of the situation. One of my clients, I'm so blessed. I mean, it's insane how good the stories I get out of people are and the stories they bring to me are. One of my clients, 8 years ago, with 2 kids, a successful business, and a marriage, she was sitting in her car getting ready to gun it into a tree. She had given up on life. She punches the accelerator, goes full speed straight into a tree, and at the last split second decides she's going to live, swerves, misses the tree. Now listen to this, swerves again and goes over the road, the center divider, and into a shopping center and screeches on the brakes just in time to see a for rent sign in a storefront that she walked into, struck a deal with, and opened the first of 2 restaurants and a bar that have made her a millionaire.
Wow.
That's what I'm talking about.
That is definitely, that is shocking. Oh, right? I should say it's shocking, right? But the truth is that it happens, people. It happens.
Yeah.
It's just that we are talking about it in a very dramatic way, but it happens to so many people. Just at the moment when you lose faith or you lose hope or you lose, the opportunity comes up. I know 100%.
Yeah. And so that's a great example of the sort of switch from night to day kind of power of the pinnacle story. So anyway, what we do is when we get back from the back history, which in her case would explain how she even came to the idea that suicide might be a good idea, we get back to the pinnacle story, we tell it again, and I love this. But this time, we just couch it a little differently so that now there's hope. Now, here's what happens to the audience when you get this right. And this is so cool. You will hear the whole audience go, oh. When you hear the whole audience go, oh, you now have a level of connection with them that is nothing short of sacred and divine.
Absolutely. We haven't even told this story in details. And I have to say, I'm reacting to it. I feel, shivers, and it's just,
yeah.
And that happens, that connection. Yes.
Right. So at this, wait, I'm doing everything backwards because it's in the camera. So it's very,
you've been doing very well so far.
At this point, we start the hero's journey. So after all that, only then is it appropriate to start the hero's journey. And here's why. The hero's journey is meant to automatically create a suspension of disbelief. So when we watch a movie that has a great hero's journey in it, we're never not aware that we're sitting in the theater or sitting at home, right? When we read a book, we never lose sight of we may get involved in the imagery and everything, but it's always clear that this is a character that we're observing. When you get pinnacle, back history, back to pinnacle, and you get certain other things that I teach in my course, like how to reveal universals through your specifics. Ooh, that's a big one. What happens is people start to feel like, oh my God, you're telling my story, right? People start to feel those physical responses you were just talking about. And so once you get to that level, you can literally look at your whole story and say, right here, I want them to feel adrenaline and cortisol. Right here, I want them to feel dopamine and dopamine, right? And you can start to engineer the emotional experience that they're having. And when you can do that, many, many great things happen. But from a very practical, boots on the ground, how's your coaching business doing perspective, when you do that, you don't have to sell anymore.
That is so powerful. It really is. It really is. And you just mentioned your course there. So I am sure, because I know, even though I have a very excitable brain and, something brilliant like that, I'm sold. I'm that one of those people. There's a lot of us there. So which is good for trainers like us. But if I wanted to follow up and I wanted to learn more, because this stuff is serious. And can I just tell you something? We started this conversation and Manny was a little late today, and he was closing up a deal because he didn't have to sell, and a person just bought. While I was waiting on Manny, I just saw a notification of a course that came in. I did not sell anything. I just posted a couple of posts on my Facebook page,
yes.
So Facebook personal profile that I always advocate for. And, and this in itself, it's symbolical that we're talking about this. Yeah. And yet we both just experienced this because it's a real world. And this is how it is. When you embrace this and you really dig in, and I love this. I'm going to dig even deeper into the whole science of the storytelling. I'm I don't do it strategically. But imagine if this is something, a lot of people are saying, and before we are going to get into how we can follow you up, but I just want to talk to the audience and just say that I know that a lot of people get confused and they don't want to open up and start talking or start writing because they feel like they feel a big barrier, and they say, oh, I'm not a writer. A year and a half ago, I said I'm not a writer. I wanted to hire somebody to write 5 emails for my sequence. And then I went on Facebook and started writing a post about this. By the end, when I finished that post, I looked at it and I said, I am a great writer. What am I doing? And ever since then, I've been writing, and it's just getting better and better. It's a practice thing and just allowing yourself.
Absolutely.
Same with speaking.
Yeah. I mean, the idea that some can and some can't is only as true as the idea that some apply themselves and some don't. And, interestingly enough, let's see if I can do it on this side. Before I wrote that book, I thought I could never be a writer either. I oddly took writing and put it in this realm of things that I just would never be able to do. And then my wife one day, she just cornered me and said, you have to write your story. She's just like, I'm not going to let you I'm not going to take no for an answer. And so I said, okay. I sat down and I started to write it. And trust me when I say it's not that I'm so great, but that book went to international bestseller in 72 hours. And it went to international bestseller because as soon as people read it, they bought 20 copies for their group, 20 copies for their friends. That happened over and over and over, 100% based on the strength of the story.
It's so true. It's so true. Yeah. It's selling without selling. It's selling with sharing.
It really is, yeah.
It's sharing. It's selling with giving. And it's an amazing concept, Where can we follow this up and get more of you, Manny?
So what I'd like to do is I'll tell you, and then if you want to attach a couple of links to this video,
definitely.
I'll give one link to my group, which is the 1000 Speakers Academy Facebook
group. It's a brilliant group, guys. You have to join. Yeah. There's so many experts interviews, and there's just like so much information there. Definitely join that.
And then if you are interested in getting a free training either on storytelling, on how to get speaking gigs, or on stage fright, whichever one of those is where you're most sort of feeling it, I've got a chat bot named Opus, and he will take you confidently through to, I think you can probably actually get all three right in Opus, but at least one of them. So
well, we have to try stage fright, guys. It's almost the same as live video fright that a lot of people experience.
There's a big overlap.
Helpful. And whatever money is giving for free, grab it, and it will be the best freebie you've ever had. Seriously, I got all my students to go and sign up to the bot because it was so good. Manny, thank you so much for sharing today with me and with our audience. And I think it was so powerful. I still feel the chills, and not just from your story, but it's just the way you deliver. So I'm going to get that book of yours, I think, because that just sounds like I need it. Thanks a million, guys. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments. Manny will come back and answer them, and definitely follow up, join his group. And I will see you next week at the same time on another episode of Show Up, Stand Out. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And believe in yourself, I have to say. Believe in yourself. Yeah. You can do it even if you think you can't right now. Just give it a go and try it. And definitely tap into storytelling because this is powerful stuff.
Thank you, Juliette.
Thank you all. Bye.